What city and time are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's the night one captured human changed the fate of an entire star system. Buckle in. This is where it began. The detention vessel Oryx 7 floated in absolute darkness along the edge of the Herath expanse, its jagged hull lit by only the cold glow of its energy sails. Built by the Caithari, towering insectoid beings known for their unflinching cruelty, the ship was more a predator than a craft. It stalked the void for weeks, hunting lone freighters, derelicts, and travelers foolish enough to stray too close to the expanse. Most never survived the encounter. The Caithari weren't traders. They weren't raiders, not in the conventional sense. They were collectors, and tonight they'd collected something rare. In the heart of the ship, beneath the thick layers of segmented hull and humming energy conduits, sat a single human. He was slumped against the cold metal floor of a narrow holding cell, wrists bound by restraints that pulsed faintly with violet light. The air smelled faintly of ozone and burning resin, and every few minutes the floor vibrated as the Caithari guards passed, their six-legged frames clicking softly against the deck plating. The man's name was Callan Ward, though the Caithari didn't care to know it. To them he was just the Terran specimen, one of the rarest prizes in the outer sectors. Humans didn't wander this far from the core systems. Those that did usually disappeared into the void, their bodies never found. Callan's head tilted back, his eyes opening slowly. There was no panic in them. No pleading, just a cold, measured calm. His face was weathered, a faint scar running across his jawline, his dark hair matted and damp from the cell's humidity. He looked more like a soldier than a lost traveler, though the Caithari had found no weapons on him, just a slim neural band, a device they assumed was a translator. From beyond the energy barrier, two Caithari guards clicked and chittered in their guttural tongue, their bioluminescent thoraxes pulsing as they laughed. They were massive, over 7 feet tall, their carapaces segmented like living armor, mandibles twitching in amusement. Fragile, one hissed, its voice translated through the chamber's glyphs into a harsh metallic echo. The prey always shivers. They all do. This one is quiet. Perhaps its nerves are frozen. The other tilted its angular head, eyes glowing faintly green. It will scream soon enough. They always do, when the experiments begin. Callan said nothing. He shifted slightly, feeling the restraints hum as they tightened in response. He let his gaze wander to the small viewport carved into the far wall. Beyond the shimmering barrier, the void stretched endless and silent. A shattered moon hung in the distance, its fragments glowing faintly like embers. For a moment, Callan's reflection stared back at him, pale in the cold blue light. He whispered, barely audible, "Argus, mark their patrol routes." No one heard the reply. It didn't come through sound, but through the faintest pulse of the neural band around his temple. A cool synthetic voice rippled through his thoughts. Confirmed. Internal schematics acquired. Patrol patterns mapped. 47 Caithari aboard. External reinforcements, none detected. Contingency ready. Callan's lips twitched into the faintest shadow of a smile. The guards outside didn't notice. But what happened next, the Caithari would never see coming. 2 decks above, Captain Zrin, the Oryx 7's commanding officer, strode into the bridge. His elongated limbs moved with the unnerving grace of a predator, his dark carapace reflecting the ship's dim lighting. The other officers, all Caithari, pulsed their thoraxes in deference. Zrin raised one clawed limb, and the room fell into silence. "Specimen secure," he hissed. "Yes, Captain," one of the officers clicked, its translator glyph flickering. "Restraints calibrated. Neural band will be deactivated before interrogation. It carries no weapons. Its vitals, strangely steady." Zrin's mandibles twitched. Humans are unpredictable. The archives speak of their savagery. Alone, they are prey. Together, dangerous. This one is alone. He turned his head slightly, the faint green glow of his compound eyes fixing on the forward display. "We will deliver it to the Overmind at Dreseth Station. Perhaps it will tell us where the Terrans are hiding their colonies, or perhaps, his mandibles curved into something almost like a smile, we will simply enjoy the dissection. The bridge pulsed with faint, approving light from the surrounding officers. None of them noticed the ship's internal security feeds flicker, just for a heartbeat. None of them saw the shadows in the hangar bay shift, or the faint glimmer of nanodrones dispersing along the conduits, invisible to all but one set of eyes aboard. Back in the cell, Callan tilted his head, feeling the faint pulse of Argus in his mind. Drones deployed, power nodes identified, breach opportunity in 17 minutes, awaiting authorization. He didn't move, didn't speak aloud, just a whisper in thought. Wait for their shift change, make it silent. Acknowledged. Outside the cell, the guards continued their low chittering laughter, oblivious to the fact that their ship was no longer entirely theirs. Hours passed in near total silence. The Caithari were methodical creatures. Every movement choreographed, every shift of personnel logged in crystalline records. Their confidence in their routines was absolute, and that was precisely why Callan waited. At the precise moment the ship's primary patrol swapped duties, leaving a 20-second gap in surveillance on the detention level, the lights flickered, only for a breath. The Caithari didn't notice. Systems hiccuped all the time in the expanse. But in that flicker, the energy barrier around Callan's cell faded just enough for Argus's invisible drones to slip through, interfacing with the control node hidden beneath the deck plating. The restraints on his wrists loosened with a faint hiss. Callan flexed his hands, feeling blood rush back into his fingers. He rose slowly, rolling his shoulders as the neural band at his temple pulsed once, syncing with the microdrones scattered through the ship. He didn't move toward the door. Not yet. Instead, he crouched, fingers brushing the floor, listening to the faint vibrations of the deck. Two guards, moving closer. He waited until their claws tapped within 3 meters. Then he whispered, "Drop them." The lights cut out. Total darkness. 2 thuds echoed softly, followed by silence. When the lights came back on, the guards lay on the floor, their limbs twitching faintly as the nanodrones surged through their neural pathways, paralyzing them without killing them. Callan stepped out of the cell, his boots silent on the deck. "Argus," he murmured, "route me to the hangar. Prep everything they took. Course plotted. Weapons cache accessible. Be advised ship's crew will detect anomalies within 90 seconds. Callan's jaw tightened slightly. "Then we move fast." The Caithari thought they had captured prey. What they didn't know was that they'd invited a predator onto their ship. The hallways of the RX-7 were narrow and dim, lined with glowing glyphs and humming conduits. Callan moved like a shadow, his neural band feeding him every blind spot, every patrol vector, every unlocked access hatch Argus could uncover. Twice, he ducked into recessed alcoves as guards passed, their mandibles clicking in idle conversation, oblivious to the fact that the very walls around them now obeyed a Terran AI. By the time he reached the hangar bay, the alarms hadn't sounded. Not yet. Crates lined the deck, most marked with alien sigils, but some bore faint Terran stenciling. Confiscated cargo, among them, a sealed weapons case hummed faintly with contained power. Callan placed his hand on the biometric lock. The case hissed open, revealing a compact, jet-black rifle with glowing cobalt lines, its surface alive with faintly shifting energy. The moment his fingers closed around it, Argus spoke in his mind. "Weapon sync complete. External comms jammed. Captain Zrin is moving toward the detention deck. 37 hostiles remain mobile." Callan slung the rifle across his shoulder and glanced up at the hangar's massive viewport. Beyond it, the shattered moon still drifted in the void, glowing like a fractured eye. He exhaled slowly. "Let's end this ship quietly. No one leaves." The neural band pulsed once. "Understood." As the hangar doors sealed behind him, the first alarm finally blared, a shrill, alien tone that echoed through the corridors. The Caithari realized something was wrong. But by then, it was already too late, because the first human they'd captured was about to become the last living thing any of them would ever see. The alarms echoed through the Oryx 7 like the shriek of a dying creature. Red warning glyphs pulsed along the corridors, casting harsh shadows across the segmented walls. The Caithari reacted in perfect synchronization, their chittered commands rippling through the ship's internal channels, mandibles snapping as they moved to seal off the detention and hangar decks. None of them had yet seen the Terran. They only knew something had gone wrong, and for the Caithari, wrong usually meant another predator had found its way aboard. Callan Ward crouched in the dark recess of the hangar, the jet-black Terran rifle humming faintly in his grip. His neural band pulsed as Argus overlaid schematics across his vision, bright lines tracing through the gloom. 2 squads inbound from port corridor. 4 engineers rerouting power to the central core. Captain Zrin approaching via dorsal lift. 43 Caithari still mobile. External systems remain under our control. Callan's eyes narrowed. They're going to try to cut off the hangar. Affirmative. Power to bay doors can be locked for approximately 4.3 minutes before they regain manual override. He exhaled, slow and steady, watching the red glyphs flicker above him. In the distance, the faint hiss and click of chitinous limbs drew closer. He could feel it. The steady vibration of their claws through the deck plating. They moved with confidence, unaware that every step brought them closer to their own trap. He spoke quietly. Seal the aft hatches, route them toward me, and prep the drones. Understood. Conduits rerouted. Drones dispersed. The first squad burst through the port corridor, 6 towering figures silhouetted by the flashing glyphs, their thoraxes pulsed with bright green combat signals, mandibles opening in a screeching command. Callan didn't move. He let them fan out, their clawed limbs scraping the deck as they advanced toward the hangar's center. Then the lights cut out. The Caithari froze, their compound eyes scanning wildly in the sudden blackness. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the faint hiss of their breathing. And then the drone struck, a swarm of nearly invisible machines surging from the vents, weaving around their segmented armor and delivering precise neuroelectric pulses to every exposed joint. One by one, the Caithari collapsed, their limbs convulsing before locking rigid. The lights flickered back on. Callan stepped forward, his rifle steady at his side, boots silent as he moved past the paralyzed soldier. He didn't glance down at them. They weren't the target. Not yet. But what happened next would show the Caithari they weren't just dealing with a survivor. They were dealing with a hunter. Argus's voice hummed softly through his neural band. Captain Zrin has diverted 3 squads toward the detention deck, assuming you are still there. Reinforcements from Draceth Station will arrive in 27 minutes. Do you wish to neutralize the ship before they arrive? Callan's grip on the rifle tightened. Yes, this ship doesn't make it back. Then you will need the core. Engineering deck 7 levels down. Estimated resistance heavy. He nodded slightly, moving toward the aft corridor as the hangar doors sealed behind him. Each step was deliberate, quiet, every motion calculated. His breathing was steady, even as the faint vibrations of dozens of clawed limbs echoed faintly from deeper within the vessel. Halfway to the lift, Argus pulsed another update. 2 Caithari squads converging on dorsal intersection, suggest flanking maneuver via maintenance conduit. Callan ducked into the narrow crawl space, the metal creaking softly beneath him as he moved through the tight passage. Below, he could hear the guards, their guttural clicks low and urgent. He paused, listening. One of them hissed sharply, "Specimen is loose. Captain orders termination on site. Leave nothing intact." The words reached him through the translator glyphs embedded along the conduit walls. Callan's jaw tightened, though his face remained calm. He shifted forward, drawing a small cylindrical device from his belt, a Terran stasis pulse. He dropped it through the grate. The device hit the deck with a soft metallic ping. Before the Caithari could react, it detonated with a soundless flash of pale blue light. Both squads froze mid-step, their thoraxes flickering erratically before dimming entirely as their neural pathways locked. Callan dropped from the conduit, landing silently between the immobilized bodies. He retrieved the device, reattaching it to his belt. "Argus," he murmured, "route me to the engineering deck and prep the core override." "Course locked." Warning, Captain Zrin is moving to intercept. Probability of direct confrontation, 88%. Callan's lips curved into a faint smirk. Good. The engineering deck of the Oryx 7 was a cavernous chamber, filled with pulsating energy conduits and massive crystalline reactors that thrummed like living hearts. The air was thick with heat and the faint, sharp scent of ionized plasma. At the center, a towering spire of glowing crystal pulsed with deep violet light. The ship's core, a living power source grown and fused over decades. Callan entered silently, his rifle raised. 4 engineers scuttled along the upper catwalks, their thoraxes flickering in alarm as they spotted him. One shrieked, mandibles flaring, and lunged toward the core controls. Callan's rifle barked once, a silent bolt of cobalt energy lancing through the air. The engineer collapsed instantly, its limbs twitching as the charge shorted its nervous system. The others froze, mandibles clicking nervously. Callan's neural band pulsed as Argus whispered, "Core interface accessible. Shall I initiate cascade?" "Not yet," Callan muttered, scanning the shadows along the upper gantries. "Zrin's coming." Almost as if summoned by the words, a low, resonant hiss echoed from the far end of the chamber. Captain Zrin emerged from the gloom, his towering frame dwarfing the other Caithari. His carapace gleamed black and green under the reactor's glow, mandibles opening in a slow, deliberate display of threat. "You are alone, human," he clicked, his voice a guttural growl as the translator glyphs echoed the words across the chamber. "Your weapons are clever, but you are flesh. You will be dissected, and your bones displayed in the Overmind's hall." Callan's rifle stayed level, his stance calm. "You made one mistake, Zrin." The captain's head tilted, compound eyes narrowing. "And what is that?" Callan's neural band pulsed once, faint and cold. "You didn't check whose ship this is anymore." The reactor chamber's lights died. Every conduit, every panel, every glowing crystal dimmed to black. For a heartbeat, only the faint hum of Argus's drones filled the silence. Then the entire deck lit with a cold blue glow as the ship's systems shifted, not to the Caithari's control, but to Callan's. Argus had overridden everything. Zrin hissed in rage, lunging forward with his clawed limbs extended, but he never made it. A wall of stasis drones surged between them, their fields locking the captain mid-stride. His limbs froze in place, his thorax flickering wildly before dimming. Callan stepped forward, his boots echoing softly on the metal floor as he approached the immobilized captain. He tilted his head slightly, his voice low. "This ship dies here, and so do you." He tapped the neural band once. "Argus, initiate cascade." "Confirmed. Core overload in 320 seconds. Extraction route plotted. External support ETA. 4 minutes." Callan turned away, his rifle lowering as the core's glow shifted from violet to a searing white. The Caithari engineers scrambled in panic, but none escaped. The drones sealed every hatch, their fields humming softly as the countdown began. And just as the core's first shockwave pulsed through the ship, the void outside rippled. 6 shadows emerged from the black, their outlines shimmering like ghosts. Sleek, black Terran Spectre-class vessels, their hulls nearly invisible against the starfield, decloaked in perfect silence. They moved with predatory precision, surrounding the Oryx 7 as the dying ship's hull began to fracture. Callan's neural band pulsed again. "Extraction route ready. Spectre 4 will dock in 41 seconds. Shall I broadcast the warning?" Callan glanced back at the immobilized captain, whose glowing compound eyes flickered dimly in rage and terror. "Yes, broadcast it." Argus's voice, amplified through the ship's failing comms, echoed in every corridor, every chamber, every Caithari ear. "The first human you captured will be the last face you ever see. Earth is coming." Callan didn't look back as he stepped into the extraction corridor, the soundless hum of the Spectre's docking clamps locking into place behind him. The Oryx 7's core erupted in a blinding cascade of white light. The explosion tore through its segmented hull, ripping it apart piece by piece as the Terran fleet slipped effortlessly back into the shadows. No distress calls left the system, no Caithari ship survived, and for the first time in generations, the predators of the Harith Expanse understood what it meant to become prey. The wreckage of the Oryx 7 drifted silently through the Harith Expanse, its shattered hull glowing faintly as fragments of molten crystal spun off into the void. Among the debris, 6 ghostly silhouettes hovered in the darkness, the Terran Spectre-class fleet, silent predators waiting in the cold. No transmissions left the sector, no Caithari escape pods were recovered. The Expanse, once a hunting ground for the insectoid collectors, had become a graveyard. Callan Ward stood on the command deck of Spectre 4, helmet cradled under his arm, the pale glow of the dying ship reflecting in his sharp, unblinking eyes. The neural band at his temple pulsed faintly as Argus whispered into his thoughts, "Data siphon complete. Dreseth station coordinates acquired. Estimated Caithari population, 70,000, defensive fleet strength, 14 dread hives, 50 spore frigates, planetary shield lattice, probability of successful strike without reinforcements, 23%. Callan didn't move, his gaze still fixed on the drifting debris. And with the ghost fleet, probability rises to 68%, provided Graviton Veil deployment is used. Civilian casualties variable, depending on operational discretion. For a long moment, Callan was silent. Behind him, the hum of the Spectre's systems filled the deck, a deep, almost predatory vibration. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, cold. Set course for Dreseth. Quiet approach. No warnings, no signals. When we arrive, I want them to know what fear feels like. The Spectre-class vessels slipped into the dark slipstream, their hulls vanishing into folds of bent starlight. The Harith Expanse fell silent once more, the wreckage of the Oryx 7, a mute warning to any Caithari ships that might stumble across it. Word wouldn't spread, because no one was left to tell the story. At the far edge of the galaxy, Dreseth station rotated slowly around a fractured gas giant, its sprawling spires glittering like insect chitin beneath the faint glow of the planet's pale blue storms. To the Caithari, Dreseth wasn't just an outpost. It was a nest, a central hub where their collectors brought prey, processed spoils, and bred their next generation of raiders. Entire decks of the station were filled with cells and labs, their walls echoing with the clicks and hisses of captured beings from a dozen species. The Caithari had heard whispers that a Terran had been captured, but none believed the stories that followed. A single human destroying the Oryx 7, impossible. Terrans were rare and resilient, but they weren't predators on the scale of the Caithari. They couldn't dismantle a hive ship alone. At least, that's what they thought. But what happened next would make the Caithari understand why humans were feared even when outnumbered 1,000 to 1. The ghost fleet emerged from slipspace without a whisper. No flash of light, no ripple of energy. One moment the void was empty. The next, 6 black silhouettes glided toward Dreseth, their hulls bending starlight like liquid shadows. Around them, the faint hum of Argus's Graviton Veil began to distort the very space near the station. Dreseth's sensors flickered, their readings glitching as the Caithari operators hissed in confusion. In the main control spire, Overseer Krill, a massive Caithari, whose thorax bore intricate golden etchings of command, snapped his mandibles in frustration. Ghost signatures, Terran phantoms, find them. His compound eyes flared with an emerald glow as he turned toward the defense overseer. Activate the shield lattice, summon the dread hives. I want them burned from the void. The overseer chittered frantically, bioluminescent veins pulsing red as he relayed the command. Across the station's perimeter, the massive dread hives, living warships grown from crystal and bone, detached from their berths, their spore cannons charging as clouds of glowing particles began to pulse within their thoraxes. 50 smaller frigates followed, their wings of membranous energy fluttering as they formed a loose perimeter. In the darkness beyond, Callan stood on Spectre 4's bridge, the faint glow of the Caithari fleet reflected in his eyes. Argus's voice was calm, deliberate. Fleet formation complete. Dreseth's defense perimeter active. Graviton Veil ready for deployment. Shall we begin the harvest? Callan's jaw tightened slightly. Deploy the veil, target their spore frigates first, keep the dread hives occupied, and make sure Krill can see everything before he dies. The graviton veil unfolded like a net of pure shadow. Invisible to most sensors, it wrapped around Dresset's orbital ring, distorting starlight and warping trajectories. The first Kythuri frigates that crossed the perimeter didn't even realize they were trapped until their drives sputtered, their momentum faltering as Argus's temporal drag slowed their systems to a crawl. One by one, they froze in place, their wings flickering like dying embers as the ghost fleet drifted silently past them, harvesting them like insects caught in amber. On Dresset's command spire, panic erupted. Overseer Krill slammed his claws into the control dias, mandibles snapping furiously. Break the veil. Fire everything. Spore cannons belched glowing clouds of weaponized organisms into the void, but most dispersed harmlessly, their trajectory bent by the graviton distortion. The few that reached the ghost fleet fizzled against their phase shields, sparks scattering like dying stars. The dread hives roared their defiance, their massive thoraxes pulsing with bright green energy, but for every blast they fired, another frigate vanished into silent stasis, claimed by Argus's invisible drones. Callan watched from the bridge, his voice low and steady. Move in on the station. Ghosts 1 through 3, keep the hives busy. Spectre 4 through 6, prep the singularity charge. Acknowledged. Estimated Kythuri fleet neutralization, 11 minutes. And that was when the Kythuri learned the ghost fleet's true weapon wasn't firepower, it was fear. Argus projected a private feed directly to Dresset's command spire, bypassing their cryptid systems with ease. Overseer Krill froze as the hollow image of Callan Ward filled the chamber. A lone human, calm, his expression unreadable as the chaos of the battle played behind him. This is for the Oryx 7, Callan said, his voice a low growl, and for every colony you burned. Krill's mandibles clattered furiously. Terran, you think you can kill a hive? There are thousands more. We will. Callan cut him off with a single cold sentence. No, you won't. At that moment, the singularity charge detonated. A sphere of imploding gravity bloomed silently near Dresset's orbital ring, pulling frigates, debris, and even fragments of the station itself into a vortex of crushing force. The graviton veil amplified the effect, trapping everything in its radius as the ghost fleet glided just beyond the event horizon, untouched. Within seconds, half of Dresset's defenses were gone, their shattered remains pulled into the growing anomaly. Krill's compound eyes widened, his thorax pulsing erratically with fear. You will doom us all. The custodians will come for you. Callan's gaze didn't waver. Let them. The feed cut as the ghost fleet fired its final salvo, concentrated graviton lances that speared through Dresset's shield lattice, shattering its core spires one by one. The station's glow dimmed, its bioluminescent veins fading to darkness as the last dreadhives broke formation and fled into the void. The ghost fleet didn't chase, not yet. As the wreckage of Dresset drifted in silence, Argus spoke softly into Callan's mind. Dresset's station neutralized. Remaining Kythuri fleets retreating toward the Veil sector. Probability of coordinated counterattack within 3 cycles, 91%. Detection of custodian probes confirmed. Estimated arrival unknown. Callan stood at the viewport, the faint glow of the collapsed singularity illuminating his face. Mark their retreat routes, and send the message. Message transmitted. Content? Callan's lips barely moved. Tell every Kythuri, and every conquered envoy watching, that Earth isn't running anymore. They wanted to hunt us, now we hunt them. Argus's voice was calm, almost coldly satisfied. Message sent. Fleet on standby, awaiting your orders for the next strike. Callan didn't turn away from the viewport. In the distance, fragments of the station's shattered spires drifted past like black snow. The Kythuri had thought they were apex predators. Now, they understood there was something far worse waiting in the dark. The Veil sector was unlike any other stretch of space humanity had traversed. It was a graveyard of stars. A cold, silent region where light bent strangely and entire systems drifted without warmth, their suns reduced to faint, dying embers. Once millennia ago, a vast interstellar war had ravaged this region, leaving scars so deep that even now the very fabric of space rippled with residual gravitic echoes. The Kytheri had made the Veil their last sanctuary, burrowing their hives into the husks of shattered worlds, believing no one would dare follow them into the dark. But someone had. 6 Spectre-class vessels emerged from slipspace, their hulls bending the meager starlight around them as they glided silently into the sector. Behind them, 3 more dreadnoughts from the United Terran Navy broke from Phase Cloak, their graviton cores glowing faintly, illuminating the void like faintly pulsing hearts. On Spectre 4's bridge, Callan Ward stood at the central viewport, his neural band pulsing with data as Argus fed him the incoming tactical readouts. Recon complete. Kytheri hive clusters detected, 12 confirmed embedded within Veil asteroids. Defensive fleet strength diminished 7 dread hives, 30 spore frigates, additional anomaly detected, custodian presence. 2 Maelrix probes confirmed, 3rd probable. Estimated intervention if engagement escalates 83%. Callan's jaw tightened, his breath even controlled. The Kytheri weren't just hiding, they were gathering strength, preparing for a retaliation that would hit Terran space harder than anything before. And now, the custodians, the galaxy's ancient arbiters, biomechanical titans, who only emerged when balance itself was threatened, were circling like vultures, waiting to see if humanity had crossed a line even they couldn't ignore. Celine Ward's voice came softly over the bridge comm. Dorian, if we strike here, the custodians will come. They don't care who fires first, they'll wipe us out alongside the Kytheri just to reset the balance. Callan didn't turn. His gaze remained fixed on the Veil's distorted stars, his voice quiet but steady. If we leave them, the Kytheri rebuild and hit Earth harder than ever. If we destroy them, we might trigger the custodians. Either way, Earth burns if we do nothing. Argus interjected, its voice a calm, synthetic whisper threading through the deck. Alternate solution, controlled escalation. Target hive clusters with graviton imploders. Use captured Kytheri beacons to broadcast surrender protocols. Frame strike as a containment rather than extermination. Probability of custodian engagement drops to 41%. Callan's fingers tightened on the railing, eyes narrowing. And the hives. Estimated survival negligible. Celine stepped beside him, her own neural band pulsing faintly. We'll be crossing a line, Dorian. The Concord will call it genocide. The custodians might see it the same way. He finally turned his head, his sharp gaze meeting hers. They captured me because they thought we were prey. They burned our colonies because the Concord let them. And every time we begged for protection, they told us to stand down for the sake of balance. His voice dropped lower, colder. Balance doesn't matter when your people are ash. If the galaxy thinks we're monsters for protecting ourselves, so be it. And with that, humanity chose a path the galaxy could never unsee. The Ghost Fleet moved first. The Spectres wove their graviton nets silently through the Veil, their phase fields masking their movements as they surrounded the asteroid clusters. Each hive pulsed faintly, glowing veins of bioluminescence, visible even through layers of rock and debris. Kytheri spore frigates patrolled aimlessly, their thoraxes dim, unaware of the predators closing in. Callan's voice echoed through the fleet-wide channel, low and deliberate. Deploy imploders. No signals. No warnings. When the first hive breaks, the rest will panic. Herd them into the Veil's core and finish it. Argus confirmed with its calm hum. Imploders primed. Veil gravity resonance synced. Detonation on your mark. The Ghost Fleet's weapons weren't loud. There were no blazing beams or deafening impacts. The first detonation was a whisper, a sudden, invisible shift in the Veil's fabric as one of the asteroid hives imploded on itself, its bioluminescent veins winking out in an instant. The shockwave rippled through the sector, triggering the Kytheri's panicked response. Their dread hives ignited their spore cannons, spewing luminous clouds into the void, as they scrambled to rally their scattered forces. But the more they moved, the more the graviton nets pulled at them, bending their trajectories, herding them deeper into the Veil's distorted center, exactly where the Ghost Fleet wanted them. On Spectre 4's bridge, Argus's tone shifted, a faint urgency threading through its voice. Maelric's custodian signatures escalating. One primary entity entering from Slipstream Corridor. Estimated arrival, 172 seconds. Recommend immediate decision, disengage or commit. Celine's jaw tightened as she stepped closer. If we stay, we face the custodians head-on. If we leave, the Kytheri rebuild. You know they'll never stop. Callan's gaze remained fixed on the viewport, the faint glow of the imploding hives casting cold light across his face. For a long moment, the deck was silent, except for the hum of the graviton cores. Then, softly, he spoke. Commit. And in that instant, humanity didn't just become the hunters. They became something far more dangerous, something even the galaxy's ancient enforcers would have to reckon with. The Ghost Fleet surged forward, their phase fields collapsing as they went fully visible for the first time. Sleek black vessels streaked through the veil like shadows turned to blades, their graviton lances spearing through Kytheri dreadhives with precise surgical strikes. The imploders detonated one after another, asteroid hives collapsing into themselves like dying stars. The Kytheri fleet, caught between the graviton nets and the imploding core, disintegrated in chaos. And then the custodian arrived. The Maelric's entity emerged from the Slipstream Corridor, like a nightmare given form. Kilometers long, its serpentine biomechanical body glowed with a dull, ominous gold, its segmented plating alive with shifting patterns of light. It didn't speak, didn't warn, didn't hesitate. The space around it, distorted as it began charging a reality-rending pulse, the same kind of weapon that had erased civilizations in ages past. Argus's voice was steady but edged with tension. Custodian wave charging. Fleet survival without countermeasure, 12%. Recommend chain-linking graviton cores, and using captured singularity charge as deflection anchor. Risk, catastrophic if synchronization fails. Celine glanced at Callan, her neural band flickering. If we miss the timing, we'll tear ourselves apart before the custodian does. Callan's expression didn't change. Then we don't miss. The 9 Terran ships shifted into formation, their graviton cores linking into a lattice that warped space itself. Argus synchronized their pulses with microsecond precision, feeding power into the singularity charge positioned at the Veil's center. The void groaned as reality itself strained, starlight bending into impossible arcs. The custodian fired. A wave of compressed reality ripped outward, shredding debris and vaporizing every remaining Kytheri ship in its path. But when it struck the Terran lattice, the linked graviton field bent the wave, redirecting it around the fleet and into the imploding Veil core. The redirected energy detonated the singularity charge, triggering a chain reaction that collapsed the sector's remaining gravitic scars, pulling the custodian backward into its own slipstream corridor. For the first time in recorded history, a Maelric's custodian retreated. Silence fell over the Veil. The asteroid hives were gone. The Kytheri fleet was dust. The stars themselves seemed to burn steadier, as the gravitic echoes finally stilled. On Spectre 4's bridge, Argus delivered the final projection. Kytheri eradicated. Custodian withdrawal confirmed. Probability of Concord condemnation, 97%. Probability of multi-species retaliation, 62%. Probability of Terran survival, if deterrent posture is maintained, 79%. Celine exhaled slowly, her eyes on the now calm void. We've just painted a target on Earth's back. Half the galaxy will want us destroyed, the other half will want to use us. Callan stared into the black, his expression unreadable. Then let them come. Earth doesn't kneel, not anymore. Argus pulsed softly. Shall I transmit the final message? Callan's lips curved into the faintest shadow of a smile. Yes, make it simple. Across the galaxy, every Concord channel, every open beacon, every encrypted network lit up with a single broadcast. No visuals, no music, just Callan Ward's steady voice. The first human you captured was the last you'll ever see. Earth is done running. We are the balance now. And then silence. If this story gripped you, like, share, and tell us in the comments. Has humanity gone too far, or not far enough? Subscribe now, because the next chapter will show you just how far Earth will go when the stars themselves turn against us.